Here I am. Just me, a cold beer in hand, feet kicked up on the polished deck of my sailboat, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon. The water's calm tonight, dead calm, the kind of glassy surface that makes you wonder if the sea's holding its breath. And for once, so am I. No emails, no phone buzzing, no fake smiles at board meetings, just silence. God, I'd forgotten what silence actually feels like. Out here, on this quiet little bay, somewhere off the Florida Keys, it finally hit me. I can breathe again. You'd think I'd feel free, right? Sailing away from everything, the house, the office, the people who only remembered my name when they needed something. But truth is, it's not freedom yet. Not really. It's just running. And I've been running ever since Monica. That name still leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, even now. Funny how you can spend years, decades, even thinking you know someone. And one night, with just a few careless words and a look you'll never forget, you realize you never knew them at all. That's what she did to me. Tore through me like a hurricane and walked away like nothing happened. I don't even let myself think too hard about the details anymore. Not because I don't remember, I remember everything, but because I'm scared if I replay it one more time, I'll actually feel it all over again. So, I sail. I sail into little bays like this one, drop anchor where no one can find me, and sit here drinking cheap beer that tastes like heaven because at least out here, nobody's lying to me. I used to love being around people. I really did. Life of the party, they said. I didn't even mind Monica's high-maintenance friends or her endless fundraisers and cocktail hours. I figured that was just marriage. You show up for each other, even when you don't care about the room you're standing in. Turns out, she was showing up in all kinds of rooms I didn't even know about. It's stupid, I guess. But when I close my eyes, sometimes I still see her standing there. Hair perfect, red dress, looking me dead in the eye and saying like it was nothing. You'll get over it. You're strong. Like her betrayal was some kind of favor. I chuckle at that memory, bitter, sharp. Then I take another long pull of my beer and focus on the water again. The waves don't care about my bruised ego. Neither do the gulls circling above or the soft scrape of the sail as the wind nudges it now and then. That's why I'm here. Because out here, it's quiet. No one asking me why I'm not over it yet. No sister telling me I'm a ticking time bomb. No colleagues pretending not to gossip about me over lunch. Just me, the boat, and enough miles between me and Monica to finally maybe feel like myself again. I know it's temporary. I know at some point I'll have to go back and figure out what the hell comes next. But not tonight. Tonight, the world can wait. Tonight, it's just me. You know what the worst part is? I really did love her. Hell, I'd have gone to war for that woman. Gave her everything I had: time, money, energy, the best years of my damn life. And I didn't just love her because she was beautiful, though she was drop-dead gorgeous. Everyone noticed when she walked into a room. That part I could live with. What got me was how she made me feel like I mattered, like I was her safe place. We met in college. She was way out of my league, of course. Everyone said so. But she chose me, or at least I thought she did. We grew up together after that, built a life, a home, a future. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I believed in her. That was my first mistake. She didn't just cheat on me, she flaunted it. She started staying out later, dressing up more, smiling at her phone like it held all her secrets. At first, I tried to ignore it. Figured it was just a phase. We'd been married long enough to hit a rough patch, right? But then came that night. I'd stayed late at work, trying to finish a deal. Decided to surprise her with takeout from her favorite Thai place. Walked in the front door and there she was, in our living room, sitting on the couch with him. Some smug-looking jackass in a tailored suit. And they weren't even trying to hide it. Her legs draped over his lap, her hand resting on his chest, both of them laughing at something I'd never hear. I just stood there, like an idiot. And when she finally noticed me, she didn't even flinch. Didn't scramble or cry or even look ashamed. She just looked at me with those cold eyes and said, and I'll never forget this, "Oh, you're home early." That was it. She actually rolled her eyes when I asked what the hell was going on. Said I was overreacting. Claimed it wasn't serious. That it didn't mean anything. When I told her I wanted her out of the house, she laughed in my face. Laughed. Said I was being childish. And then she dropped the hammer. "You'll come around," she told me. "You've always needed me more than I need you. You're not going to throw this all away because of one little mistake." One little mistake. like she hadn't just burned our entire marriage to the ground. That was when I stopped seeing her as my wife and started seeing her as something else entirely. Not a partner, not even a person I recognized, but an enemy. And when she realized I wasn't going to forgive her this time, she got mean, cold, turned everything into a fight, the house, the car, the money, threatened to ruin me if I didn't play nice. She made it clear she wasn't walking away quietly, so I stopped asking her to, and I started walking away myself. The woman I loved, she was long gone. All that was left was someone I didn't even know anymore. It was shaping up to be a perfect evening. The sun had just slipped behind the horizon, leaving the sky painted in streaks of pink and gold. I'd settled back into my deck chair, cracked open another beer, and let the gentle rocking of the boat start to undo the knots in my chest. Then, I heard it. At first, I thought it was thunder, a low rumble, far off, but it kept getting louder. And then the bass hit thump, thump, thump so heavy it sent little ripples across the water. I sat up. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw them. A massive yacht, and I mean massive, nosing into the bay like it owned the damn ocean. Bright white hull gleaming under spotlights. Music blaring so loud I could feel it in my ribs. So much for silence. They just kept coming, eating up the space between us until they dropped anchor way too close for comfort. I swear, it looked like a floating nightclub. Lights strung all over the decks, flashing strobes, silhouettes of people already dancing. And then, over the thump of the music, I heard laughter. High, sharp, grating. And that's when I saw him. Fabio. Well, I didn't know his name yet, but he looked like a Fabio if I'd ever seen one. Big guy in a black tailored suit, shirt unbuttoned halfway down his chest, gold chain glinting against way too much cologne. He was standing on the bow like he was posing for a magazine cover, arms spread wide, soaking in his own self-importance. Behind him was his entourage, women in tiny dresses and higher heels, men in tight shirts and slick hair, bodyguards in black standing at attention. It was like a bad reality show sailed right into my quiet little bay. I could already feel my blood pressure climbing. Here I was, just trying to drink my beer and be left alone. And now I had front row seats to Fabio the Fabulous. He even had the audacity to shout across the water at me, something about privacy and moving my little boat out of his way. I didn't even bother answering at first, just raised my beer in a half-hearted toast and went back to staring at the horizon. But I could still hear him barking orders, gesturing toward me like I was some kind of inconvenience. This was my bay first, and I sure as hell wasn't going anywhere for him. He could blast his bad techno all night long if he wanted, but he wasn't pushing me out. Not tonight. Not ever. It didn't take long for him to escalate. A few minutes after his yacht settled way too close to mine, Fabio himself strutted to the edge of his deck, still wearing that ridiculous black suit like he was about to walk a runway instead of yell across a bay. "Hey," he barked, cupping his hands around his mouth. "You need to move. This is our spot tonight. Private event. Understand?" I didn't even bother standing up. Just leaned back in my chair, raised my beer, and answered, "Pretty sure the ocean's public, pal." That seemed to confuse him for half a second. Then he got louder. "Listen, my client, very famous, very important, doesn't want spectators, okay? So move your little sailboat somewhere else, now." His voice was already grating, the way he said "little sailboat," like it was beneath him, like I was beneath him. I set my beer down, stood, and strolled to my railing, taking my time just to annoy him. "Let me explain how this works," I called back. "You see, I was here first. That means you can either turn your disco barge around or park somewhere else. Capiche?" He blinked at me, clearly not used to people saying no. Then he disappeared inside. For a second, I thought he might actually back off. But no. A few minutes later, one of his crew motored over in a little dinghy. Same bad attitude, but this time with an envelope. The kid handed it to me without a word. Inside, a check for 10 grand. I actually laughed, loud enough for them to hear. Then I tore the check in half and let the pieces drift into the water. "Tell your boss he'll need more zeros," I called after the kid as he motored back. 5 minutes later, Fabio was back at the railing, red in the face, shouting, "All right, fine. How about 100,000? Cash. You leave now, nobody gets hurt." I crossed my arms, leaned against the mast, and shook my head. "You don't get it, do you?" I yelled back. "I'm not here for the money. I'm here because it pisses people like you off." That shut him up for a second. Then he just threw his hands in the air and stormed back inside. I sat back down, picked up my beer, and chuckled to myself. Let him stew. Let him play his music, shine his lights, and throw his money around. This bay was mine tonight, and no amount of cash or arrogance was going to change that. At first, I tried to ignore the circus next door. Fabio's yacht was still blasting music, flashing lights into the dark water, his guests parading around like they were auditioning for some trashy reality show. Every now and then I'd hear a burst of shouting over the music, laughter, then raised voices, then laughter again. But after a while, the tone changed. I glanced up and saw them gathered on the deck: Fabio, a few guys in suits, and one woman. Even from here, I could see her posture was all wrong. Everyone else stood loose, smug, relaxed. She stood tense, arms crossed, her chin up but shoulders tight, like she was cornered. The shouting got louder. Then I heard something crash glass, maybe, and one of the guys stepped toward her. That was when she snapped. Without warning, she spun on her heel, ran to the railing of the yacht, and leapt. Just like that. No hesitation, no second look, just a clean, graceful dive into the black water below. It took me half a second to process what I was seeing. Fabio and his crew froze at the rail, yelling something after her. But she didn't look back. Her head broke the surface a few yards out, and she started swimming straight toward me. For a second, I just stood there, gripping the rail, watching her cut through the water. Even in the moonlight, she moved like she'd done this before. Smooth, fast, determined. But I couldn't help noticing she was still wearing heels. That made me chuckle despite myself. I glanced back at Fabio's deck. The men were still shouting, but no one was jumping in after her. When she got closer, I could finally see her face. Young, strikingly beautiful, hair slicked back from the water, eyes locked on me like I was her last chance. Well, hell, I sighed, leaned down, and extended a hand over the side. Come on, I muttered, more to myself than to her. She grabbed my wrist, and I hauled her up, soaked, shivering, still wearing that ridiculous pair of heels, and deposited her on the deck of my boat. She stood there, catching her breath, looking around like she couldn't quite believe she'd made it. I didn't say anything at first, just handed her a towel. She finally looked up at me and gave a faint, breathless smile. Thanks, she said. I grunted and went back to my beer thinking, great, just what I needed. A runaway princess in heels, and a whole lot of trouble about to follow her. She stood there, dripping all over my teak deck, clutching the towel I'd handed her like it was a shield. For a second, neither of us spoke. Her chest rose and fell as she caught her breath, mascara running a little under her eyes, hair plastered to her face. And yet, even soaking wet and shivering, she somehow looked composed. Me? Not so much. I took a long pull from my beer, then set it down and muttered, "You picked the wrong boat." Her lips twitched into something halfway between a smile and a grimace. Didn't feel like I had much of a choice. Fair enough. I glanced back at Fabio's yacht. They were still making noise over there, but no one was jumping in to fetch her. Which told me plenty about what kind of people they were, and maybe what kind of person she was too. "Name?" I asked finally, just to break the silence. "Lena," she said. "And you?" I hesitated. Then, "Ryan." "Thank you, Ryan," she added softly, her voice steadier now. I just nodded, already regretting letting her climb aboard. Because here's the thing, I didn't want this. Didn't want her. Not her problems, not her story, not her perfume clinging to the night air. I'd worked hard to get away from people like her, people who turn your life inside out and don't even say sorry. But what was I supposed to do? Let her drown? Wave as she sank? No, I couldn't do that. She started peeling off her heels finally and set them neatly beside her, then looked up at me again. "I'll leave first thing in the morning," she offered. "I just need it off that boat." "Fine," I muttered. "You can sleep in the forward cabin. Keep it down." Her eyebrows raised at my tone, but she didn't argue. Instead, she wrapped the towel tighter around herself and murmured, almost to herself, "You're not much of a talker, are you?" "Not when I don't have to be," I shot back. That earned me the smallest laugh, quiet, almost genuine. But I didn't laugh with her, because I already knew better than to let someone like Lena get too close. So I grabbed another beer, sank back into my chair, and stared out at the dark water. Let her dry off, warm up, and disappear come morning. That was the plan. That had to be the plan. The forward cabin stayed quiet most of the night. I figured she'd dry off, sleep it off, and I'd wake up to an empty deck. But just before dawn, I heard her footsteps, soft but deliberate. She didn't say anything at first, just sat on the opposite side of the deck, her towel replaced by one of my old sweatshirts and a pair of shorts I'd left out. She held a mug of coffee in both hands like it was keeping her alive. For a while, we just stared out at the water, letting the sun bleed into the horizon. Then, out of nowhere, she spoke. "You probably think I'm some spoiled little princess," she said, her voice calm but low. I didn't answer. She gave a faint smile anyway. "You're not wrong. At least, not entirely." She sipped her coffee, tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, and kept going. "I grew up in a little town in Iowa. Back there, people thought I was destined for something big just because I was tall and skinny and had cheekbones. At 17, I got scouted at a mall. My mom cried. My dad shook the agent's hand like I'd just won the lottery. Her laugh was dry. I thought it was my ticket out. And for a while, it was. Runways in New York, ads in Milan, catalog shoots in Tokyo. Everyone back home thought I was living some kind of dream." She paused, then added quietly, "But nobody tells you what the dream really costs." I glanced over then. Couldn't help it. She caught my look and kept going. "You learn quick how it works. It's not about how good you are, it's about who you know and what you're willing to give them. Directors, photographers, casting agents, all of them pretending you're lucky to even be there while they treat you like furniture." Her voice hardened. "Some girls said no, some left, but most of us, we stayed. Told ourselves it was just part of the job, that if we played along long enough, it'd get better. It never does." She stared down at her coffee, swirling it like she was trying to find answers in it. "I met Fabio at some party in Monaco. He promised me work, said I'd meet the right people. He was charming at first, until you realize his boat is just a floating audition couch. Every girl on there tonight knew exactly what was expected of her." Her jaw tightened. "But tonight, he made it a game. Said he and his friends could have all of us before we docked in Italy, like we were nothing but trophies to collect. I tried to hide in my cabin, but they came for me anyway." She finally looked at me then. I couldn't do it. Not anymore. So I jumped. The silence that followed was heavier than the air itself. She let out a long breath, like she'd been holding it for years. "Anyway," she added after a beat, trying to force a smile, "that's the glamorous world of high fashion. In case you were curious." I didn't say anything, because, honestly, what could I say? She turned back to the water and whispered, "Thanks for letting me aboard, Ryan. You didn't have to." And all I could manage was a quiet nod, because for the first time in a long time, I realized someone else's scars ran just as deep as mine. After she finished, we sat there in silence for a while. The sun was higher now, the sky turning that perfect kind of blue you only see at sea. But inside, I still felt gray. Lena didn't push, didn't pry, just sipped her coffee, waiting. And for some reason, maybe because she'd already laid herself bare, I finally opened my mouth. "You're not the only one who ran," I said, surprising even myself. She glanced at me, quiet but attentive. I stared down at my hands. "I was married," I began. "Monica, childhood best friend. We grew up on the same street, went to the same school. Everyone, including me, thought it was destiny. First love, last love, all of that crap." Lena gave a little nod, encouraging me to go on. "We got married young, built a life together. I worked my ass off to give her everything she wanted, and for a while, I thought we were happy. But," I let out a dry laugh, "she was happy all right, just not with me." Her eyes softened, but she didn't interrupt. "She cheated," I said flatly. "And not just once, not just some drunken mistake at a party. No, it was deliberate, planned. She flaunted it. Even told me I should be grateful she was still willing to stay married to me." I rubbed my face, feeling the old anger creep back in. When I told her I couldn't forgive her, she laughed, said I was being dramatic, said I'd come around. Then she threatened to take everything if I didn't play along. Lena's brow furrowed. "She didn't just betray me," I added quietly. "She humiliated me, turned me into the punchline of my own damn life." That was the part that hurt the most, and I think she could tell. She set her mug down and leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Ryan," she said, her tone calm but sharp enough to cut through the fog in my head. "You know what your problem is?" I arched an eyebrow at her. "Enlighten me." "You're still letting her win." That stung more than I expected. "You've been out here alone, bitter, licking your wounds, thinking you're punishing her by shutting the world out. But you're not. You're punishing yourself." And she's probably not even thinking about you anymore. I opened my mouth, but she held up a hand. No, don't say anything yet, she continued. You were good to her. You gave her everything, and she threw it back in your face. That says everything about her and nothing about you. But you've let her keep hurting you every day since. Her gaze locked on mine. You've got to stop letting her live rent-free in your head. She's gone, Ryan. Let her go. Or you're going to waste the rest of your life on someone who doesn't deserve another damn second of it. I didn't have a comeback for that. Mostly because I knew she was right. Lena leaned back, gave me a faint smile, and said, You're not dead yet, sailor. Start acting like it. And for the first time in a long time, I actually believed I could. The next few days passed in a way I didn't expect. I kept telling myself she'd leave at the next port, that she was just another storm I'd ride out, but she didn't leave. And I didn't really want her to. We sailed south, stopping in little towns and empty coves, letting the days blend together. She moved around the boat like she belonged there barefoot, hair blowing in the wind, that quiet confidence in her step. She never asked for much, never complained when the meals were simple or when the wind died and we had to drift. In fact, she laughed. A lot. She laughed at my grouchy morning routine, at the way I swore when the rigging jammed, at my bad jokes I didn't even know I was telling. And somewhere between those quiet mornings and golden sunsets, I caught myself laughing too. It hit me one evening when we pulled into a sleepy little harbor town, the kind of place where the streets smelled like bread and the air hummed with church bells. We tied up at the dock, and she insisted we go ashore. I want seafood, she announced. Real seafood, not whatever you've been cooking out here. So we found this tiny restaurant with crooked tables and string lights overhead. The owner greeted her like she was royalty, though it was probably just her smile that did it, and seated us by the water. We ate fresh shrimp and drank cold white wine. I watched her tuck her hair behind her ear and laugh with the waiter in broken Italian. And for a minute, I forgot about Monica entirely. I forgot about everything, actually. For the first time in years, I felt okay. Not angry, not hollow, just present. When we left the restaurant, the streets were quiet. I offered her my arm more out of habit than anything, and she slipped her hand through without saying a word. Her fingers were warm against mine. We walked back to the boat under a sky full of stars, and I caught myself thinking, this isn't Monica, not even close. And for once, I didn't feel the need to run from that thought. For once, I was almost happy. The last thing I expected was to see her again, but there she was. Monica, standing at the foot of the dock one morning, dressed to kill in some designer dress and heels that had no business on a cobblestone street, arms crossed, a smug little smile on her lips, like she'd just caught me with my hand in the cookie jar. Ryan, she called sweetly, like nothing had ever happened. Honey, finally. Lena froze where she was, halfway through coiling a line. Her eyes darted from me to Monica, and I swear the air on the dock dropped 10 degrees. Monica didn't even wait for an invitation. She clacked down the dock and stepped aboard like she still owned the place. Well, she said, giving Lena a once-over. This is quaint. And you must be, she waved a manicured hand dismissively. The entertainment. Lena didn't flinch, didn't even blink, just straightened up, wiped her hands on her shorts, and said, No, I'm Lena, and I think you're lost. That actually made me smile, though I tried to hide it. Monica scoffed. Oh, please, Ryan and I go way back. Don't we, sweetheart? I leaned against the mast, arms crossed, watching her performance. You know, Ryan, she continued, voice dripping sugar and venom, you really don't have to pretend anymore. Whatever this little detour is, it's cute. But we both know, you're coming home with me. Lena raised an eyebrow at that, but stayed quiet. I let the silence stretch before I finally spoke. No, I said simply. Monica blinked. Excuse me? You heard me, I said. No, I'm not coming with you. Not now. Not ever. Her smile faltered. Ryan, don't be ridiculous. You need me. You've always needed me. I shook my head. No, Monica, that's where you're wrong. I don't need you. I never did. And you sure as hell don't get to come back here and talk to her. I nodded toward Lena, like she's beneath you. Monica's jaw tightened, but for the first time, she had no comeback. I chose you once, I added. Biggest mistake of my life, but I'm not making it again. Her eyes darted between me and Lena, then back to me. Finally, she let out a sharp little laugh, the kind people make when they've already lost. Fine, she spat. Enjoy your little boat and your little, whatever this is. And with that, she turned on her heel and marched back down the dock, heels clicking like gunshots, until she disappeared into the crowd. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Lena glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "You okay?" she asked softly. I nodded. For the first time in years, I actually meant it. "Yeah," I said, cracking the smallest smile. "I'm okay." Then I looked out at the water at my boat, at the horizon waiting just beyond it, and thought, for the first time, I chose myself, and it feels pretty damn good.